We are live. How we doing, everybody? It's your guy Wardy here, and we're back at it with our latest live edition of our New York Metropolitan post-game show presented by our great friends here at BetUS and SeatGeek. Because today, everybody, I want to see those W's spam the live chat right here, right now. How we doing, everybody? Thank you guys chiming in, especially to everyone who had great patience for me for this live show tonight. I apologize. I was not all set and ready to go right after today's ball game like I typically am. Today was absolutely absurd. I've been running on nothing but absolutely fuel right now. I had a long night there flying home from the West Coast to the East Coast all night long where I barely slept. So it was an absolute whirlwind of a day, but we have ourselves a ball game to break down, an amazing victory to break down as the Mets take down the Colorado Rockies by a final score of 4-2 in game one of a multi-game set there in Colorado and Denver against said Rockies. And who do we see step up for the Mets on the offensive end? It wasn't just Ronnie Mauricio who made his first big hit at the major league level since the 2023 season. It wasn't just Kodai Sanga giving us a strong 6+ innings of work today. It wasn't just Juan Soto getting on base 3+ times. It wasn't just the polar bear continuing his absolute heroics there with runners in scoring position. No, folks, we got to talk about the captain, our captain, and Mr. Smile himself, and Francisco Lindor. Broken pinky toe or not, this man is going to come up to the plate and step up for this Mets team. And he did exactly that in a winning fashion for the Mets that we saw there in the ninth inning. But we're going to break down how he got there, innings 1 through 9, everything that transpired, what we love so much from Kodai Sanga's final line today, along with everything in between. So thank you guys kindly for smashing a like and subscribe on as you first chime in. And like I said, I want to see those W's spam the live show right here, right now. And all of our replay viewers, please let us know all your key takeaways in the comments down below. Thank you so much in advance. We greatly appreciate it. Aaron Jacobs with the $2 holla. Himdor, my captain. Himdor, your captain. Himdor, our captain. Kevin Kane, thank you so much for the $5 holla as well. Just want to shout out Michael K for being a big time channel supporter. Seriously, thank you so much for the donation. In case you guys have been living under a rock, or at least, you want to disregard the lesser, which is Mr. Michael K. But of course, he's a lion. Can't forget that, everybody. Michael K just can't stop running his mouth. For a man that is so infatuated on the idea that he is nothing but a greater individual than a lot of average Mets fans, and the fact that we're lessers, seems to be having a hard time getting these lessers and these so-called fleas out of his mentality. We're going to talk more on what Michael K has had to say lately to Mets fans, including more outspoken Mets fans, including guys like myself and many others there and the Mets talking head space. So we're going to expand on that and a hell of a lot more, and content is dropping tomorrow, so be on the lookout for that, everybody. Just more nonsense from the old man yelling at the cloud like the true Simpsons me that we have to go out of our way to correct, or else it's going to get from bad to ugly on their front end. We're going to see it unfold naturally, but we might as well share some input, 2 cents if you will, on that front, guys. But we have a lot to break down in this one. I'm really excited to get into it. Again, this was not the sexiest game by any stretch for the New York Mets in game one, a multi-game set there in Colorado, but very much so like what we saw the Mets do game one against the LA Dodgers. They showed up right away, and that's important to take game one on the road, especially. This is a Mets team who, mind you, entered this road trip initially in LA against the Dodgers with only 2 road series wins, 5 road series losses, and 1 road series split. Of course, that series split came in their previous 4-game set against the Nationals. The Mets, of course, split this series in 4 against the Dodgers in a lot of similar fashions, how they blew the game with the lead late in said ball game in a lot of those wins, and of course defeats as well. But you go into Colorado after you swept them at home not even 2 weeks ago. You have to take advantage of that opportunity in the lesser schedule yet again, and it appears that the Mets are in fact doing exactly that, everybody. So let me see in the chat all your guys' thoughts. As I said, we have a lot to break down on the offensive end. This is how the ball game ended, not how it started there, that you guys see the Mets live 1 through 9 and said matchup with this one, starting there with Brandon Hemmo in the leadoff, and ending there with Ronnie Mauricio, who got the start today, yes, at shortstop over Francisco Lindor. As you guys can also see right here on the pitching end, this is the final line from Kodai Sanga, so I'm going to give you guys some time to let this marinate in your brains. Would you grade Kodai Sanga's final line on a scale of 1 to 10? We're going to break down everything you need to know about his arsenal and day here shortly. Huascar Brazo had another outing where he unfortunately gave up a run, but Ryan Stank stepped up big time. Edwin Sugar Diaz shut down the door big time as he is famously done oh so much throughout the course of the 162. Diaz entered this road trip being undefeated there that we've seen in save situations up until naturally that first game there in LA, in which I was in attendance. Thankfully, even after Diaz blew his first save of the year there, we did see the Mets go back and win back in extras, the same way that the Mets won today, even while the Colorado Rockies had some things cooking against them, including the Rockies, who scored their latest run in said ball game today that we saw in the bottom of the 7th inning. So guys, let's break down how we got here as we always do. So hit that like and subscribe on your way in, everybody. And if you guys do not know the story here, after every big victory throughout the course of 162, big, small, and everything in between, we gotta let it rip as we always do with the one, the only, the official, baby, WardyNYM post-game jingle. Let's have ourselves a late Friday night, baby. Let's effing go. Let's do this. Shout out to my guys, Greg and Jordan, as always, with the official WardyNYM post-game jingle. If you don't know now, you know, everybody. We love it, and we bop that after every single win throughout the course of the 162, and I know you guys look forward to it. After every big victory throughout the course of the season, everybody. But let's hop back to the main slide here and let's get into breaking down this ball game. But before I do, let's give a massive shout out to everyone for chiming in live at a replay. Let's get the roll call going, baby, before we break down this 4-2 Metropolitan victory here in Denver against those Colorado Rockies. We got Chad O'Neill, great member. Rebecca, great member. David, how we doing? Chuck, how we doing? Good Tube, how we doing? Going up the list here. D-Mac, great member. Chad, if I didn't say him already, great member. How we doing? Eric Roper, how we doing? Scott Sandler, Charlene, how are you? Juliet, great member, going up here. Adorable, how you doing? Thank you so much for chiming in. Let's see. It's obvious that you're actually Conforto. I'm glad that it took you this long to figure that one out. Adorable. All jokes aside, going up the list here, we got Jason, how we doing, baby? We got Carlos, we got JD, we got Frank V, great member. We got D-Mac, if I didn't say him already, great member. Andres, Kevin, how we doing? Brandon, how we doing? Going up the list. Kevin Gaten, how we doing? JTB, great member, how are you? Walt, how we doing? Mike O'Brien, how are you? Carlos Ortiz, how are you? Let's go up the list here. Scott Miller, how we doing? Dave Coffer, Damian McFadden, we play the jingle indeed, baby. Did I miss the post-game Wardy dance? You did not, Bobby G. We're here just in time for you, baby. Great member. Going up the list here, Sal Vassallo, how are you? Going up here, Elephant in the Room. Going up here even more, we got Cherry World. We got Care Bear, great member. Hope you're doing fantastic. Thank you so much for chiming in. Late night here, especially if you're watching on the East Coast. If you're out west or somewhere else, we appreciate you just as much. Going up here, we got Miguel. Good Tube. G Money Stack, how we doing? Loud and clear. Let's go up. Scott Miller, all you guys again, come on, come all. Hit that like and subscribe on as you guys first chime in. It always does mean a lot. And thank you guys so much for doing exactly that. Are you trying to shake off the jet lag? Absolutely. And we got ourselves another long day tomorrow because we got new content coming out earlier in the day for you guys. And then another very late night post-game show there that you guys will either get immediately after the game or slightly delayed after the game because your boy Wardy's going to be locked in to the big UFC fights there in Newark this Saturday, headlined by Sugar Sean O'Malley facing off against Marab I'm gonna butcher Marab's last name there, but for the bantamweight belt. So I'm really looking forward to that, everybody. I believe it's bantam, but again, don't quote me on that. Dave, how are we doing? Great member as always. Darren, great member. How are you? Tim Frith, how are you doing? Thank you so much for chiming in. AJ Vasquez, great member. William, Angel, all you guys chiming in live at a replay. I appreciate you all so much here as we're breaking down our latest New York Metropolitan victory by a final score of 7-2. And the final thing you got to hear from your guy Wardy before we rapid fire break down down this ball game is by shouting out our amazing sponsors here that you guys know very well. Yes, SeatGeek. SeatGeek has you covered with everything on the ticketing front, everybody. So if you don't know, let me enlighten you real quick as to what you're getting in SeatGeek. With SeatGeek, everybody, with over 70,000 active events to choose from, making them the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today for a reason. We are so grateful to have them here partnered on the platform throughout the entire course of the 162, and you guys can utilize our amazing promo code linked down below, hyperlinked as a matter of fact, to get 10% off your next ticket purchase. But before we get there, let me at least tell you a little bit as to why I believe that you should find yourself utilizing SeatGeek if you haven't already, especially, or if you want to just save some money on your next ticket purchase. And the reason why I love SeatGeek, the #1 rated ticketing app in the game today, is because of how amazing their grading scale system is for the type of tickets that you get. As you guys can see right here, everybody, I'm actually going to move this all the way up. Just give me 1 second to go ahead and do exactly that there, because I want to show you exactly my point. And as you guys can see beside me, we have a grading scale system 1 to 10 going from red to green. If it's in the 1 through 5 range and more in the red, it's not a good bang for your buck, and you're probably losing dollars versus saving dollars. If you find tickets in the 7 to 10 range or more in the green, then that's a great bang for your buck. So it all is indicative as to what exactly you're looking for there, but they make it so simple and so easy to utilize there in the SeatGeek app, everybody. So if you guys want to save 10% off your next ticket purchase, I highly implore you all to check out our awesome friends at SeatGeek and make sure to utilize our promo code in case you guys have it already there, and that is going to be for SeatGeek, yes, but also specifically make sure you utilize the promo code at WardyNYM. That way you too get 10% off your next ticket purchase. And shout out once more to our great friends at SeatGeek for being an amazing sponsor here on the platform. But now, guys, as we hop in this one, JF Pride, thank you so much for becoming a member. We're really happy to have you. Reggie, how we doing, my man? What's good, Wardy? Big W for a Mets. He's always a big W. It doesn't matter if it's against the LA Dodgers or against the Colorado Rockies. Every victory is important for this New York Metropolitan team. And for the Mets, who out-hit the Rockies today by one measly hit, 10-9, and of course had their continued woes with runners in scoring position, what was the commonality that we saw from today's game? You have the polar bear acting more like the polar bear. You had Juan Soto continuing to look more and more locked in. Tell me Juan Soto's having fun without telling me Juan Soto's having fun. He's locked in. He's playing loose. He's playing goofy in all the right ways there. And just top down offensively, the Mets got just enough, especially from their captain, who in a very fitting fashion, his first at bat since coming back from that pinky toe broken injury, we see Lindor have in many ways the most vital at bat for the New York Mets today. And Kodai Sanga went out and shoved just the way that we know he certainly can every single time out there. So thank you guys kindly for smashing like and subscribe on as you chime in. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride, whether you're watching this on live or on replay, as we break down all the latest here in Metsland for you guys here late night on the East Coast. Mets take game 1 of a multi-game set in Colorado, this time by a final score here that we see of 4-2. How you doing, Asia? Great member and friend as always. Hoping the best for you and your family. Thank you so much for chiming in as always. But all right, guys, let's break down this volume. Let's see how we got there, because we had towing the rubber for the New York Metropolitans and Mr. Kodai Sanga, where we saw Rolson was initially towing the rubber as a spot starter for the Colorado Rockies before Nick Senzatella came in. And little did we know that Nick Senzatella, the same man, if I believe his first name is Nick, but don't quote me on that, Senzatella, he is the same man who's been batting practice. Antonio Senzatella, I apologize, that's correct. Antonio Senzatella has been batting practice all year long for the Colorado Rockies, but leave it to the New York Mets to face him in the first game of a multi-game set, to have him have some shutty outings in this one. So all right, guys, we see this ball game begin in the first there with Brandon Nimmo flying out right away, Marte striking out as Marte was batting the 2-hole to begin this ball game, and then we saw Juan Soto rip himself a 2-out single. Then Pete Alonso grounded out, and that did it there for the first inning. But Juan Soto, everybody, again attacking early, which is encouraging to see. Never going to complain about that. But the Mets go down in order otherwise as we then head to the bottom of the first. And the bottom of the first, who do we see go down 1, 2, 3? It's the top of the Rockies order. You get a quick flat on Jordan Beck. You get a nice strikeout there on Taro Estrada, and a ground on a Hunter Goodman. And Kodai Sanga's in his bag, in his groove early to begin this ball game. In the second inning, everybody, We saw McNeil rip a leadoff single right away. Then we saw with 2 outs, Francisco Alvarez doing what he does best so far this season, and that's by going the opposite way. Alvarez rips himself a 2-out opposite field single, and that has the Mets with runners on with 2 outs there for Ronnie Mauricio, who would ground out there right back to Antonio Senzatella to end the inning. Not a terrible at-bat by Mauricio, but today felt like the day that Mauricio was going to get his first hit at the big league level this season. That's why I initially had him on the thumbnail before the show actually went live itself, because it held true as Ronnie would finish this ball game with his best at bat so far of the major league season. But before we get there, everybody, we did see in the top of the third, the Mets have themselves a inning where they're trying to pounce early, right? We see already Nimmo with a line out, Marte then with a 1-out single, Juan Soto then with a walk, and you have 2 on, less than 2 out there for Pete Alonso. All we need from Pete is to just get something going, and instead Alonso unfortunately strikes out swinging. Big strikeout there in Alonso from Senzatella there that gets him to swing on the four-seam fastball just upstairs that he swung right under there. Again, it was 93 miles per hour. There was nothing fancy about it whatsoever, but it just got the job done, and that is all Senzatella needed. Gets a massive strikeout on the polar bear, and then we would see Jeff McNeil fly out to strand runners. So for the second inning, and as many innings there, back-to-back innings, we see the Mets strand 2 on with either 2 outs or less there in said innings. In the bottom of the third, we see Keston here a strikeout swinging. Mickey Moniak then gets the offense started here for not the LA Angels, the last team that Mickey was on this time, the Colorado Rockies, because after he got in a contract dispute there with the Angels on just like a couple $100,000 there in arbitration, he goes to the Colorado Rockies and he rips his 6th home run of the season, everybody. And how Mickey Moniak does it is by absolutely decimating a first pitch sweeper that he got middle, 81 miles per hour, a meatball of a pitch that was exposed by Kodai Sanga to Mickey Moniak, 190 feet there at just over 101 miles per hour. And just like that, Colorado's quickly up 1-0. And then we see them trying to add more insult to injury right away, because then Tyler Freeman rips his 4th double of the year. So right after the home run, you give up a double right away. You don't love that feeling, but you know it's not the end of the world either. Then you see Jordan Beck get on with a walk. So okay, after the home run, you get 2 guys on and you have them on less than 2 out. Thankfully, Taro Estrada grounds into a massive inning-ending double play. A great turn by that Mets infield defense that we saw today. I can't get over how good that looked, especially from Beatty to Jeff to Alonso. 6-4-3, bing, bang, boom, sayonara, you're out of here. And the Mets and Kodai Sanga thankfully get out of that otherwise frustrating early jam, but they're still down 1-0 as we would then head to the top of the 4th. At the top of the 4th, we would see Brett Beatty, Brett the Hitman, get on this time with a 1-out walk, and then he gets a second base there that we'd see after a wild pitch by Senzatella. But after a Alvarez ground out and a flat by Ronnie Mauricio, Ronnie ends the inning for the second time in the first 4 innings of the ball game, and that does it where the Mets are still down by 1. In the bottom of the 4th, we would see Hunter Goodman lead off the inning there against Kodai Sanga with a single, then a big strikeout this time that we would see on Ryan McMahon from Mr. Kodai Sanga, and he got him with the ghost fork, nasty pitch there, way down and away there, got him in a bite, and then a huge pick off there by Mr. Francisco Alvarez on Hunter Goodman, who was trying to steal second base. Alvarez had the juices flowing and had the cannon working with the arm today to get that throw. A nice tag as well by Jeff McNeil at second base, everybody, and that had me pretty hyped up, especially after Alvarez's defensive blunder yesterday, where he was kind of like a deer in headlights at home. If he moved out of the way for Reed Garrett, maybe Reed gets that out in time after Beatty spikes it in the ground. I'm not exactly sure, but what I am sure of is that the Mets need to take today's game after splitting a series that they at minimum should have won 3 out of 4 against the LA Dodgers, everybody. And as we continue on from here, we would see, and wow, the Florida Panthers won in double overtime. Huge Stanley Cup finals going on right now between the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. Let me know in the live chat in the comments down below to any hockey fans out there, what are your Stanley Cup finals predictions and why? Would love to hear it, guys, and thank you so much for exactly that. But after the great defensive work by Alvarez to McNeil, we would see a called strike 3 on Brennan Doyle, which then gets us set for the top of the 5th inning. And the top of the 5th, the Mets do absolutely nothing. They go down in order from Nimmo to Marte to Soto. So then we get to the bottom of the 5th, and in the bottom of the 5th, we would see Ryan Ritter lead off the inning there with his first triple of the season. Ryan Ritter going all the way from the plate to third, putting himself in beautiful scoring position early for the Colorado Rockies. Then we would see Keston Hiura strike out swinging, because of course he does. And then we would see Mickey Moniak reach on a fielder's choice after the fact, everybody. Tyler Freeman then gets on with a walk. So there is something cooking for Colorado to try to score a runner here. But instead, they get Jordan Beck to ground out as the final out of the inning, and the Colorado Rockies strand their runner there at third. It was a fantastic turn of events there by the Mets to, of course, get the out at home. An out or so prior there that we saw with Alonso to Alvarez. No overthinking there, thankfully. They got the tag in time. Upon review, he was in fact out, which allowed the other runner, that being Moniak, to get on with a fielder's choice. And that was a pivotal point in this ball game, everybody, because if the Rockies go up 2-0 here, who's not to say that we have the same outcome of said ball game, even though I have confidence in the Mets rallying back any day of the week, especially against the Rockies. Tonight was a little bit different, though. You could definitely see how exactly this one transpired. Or did I see Halliburton last night? Sadly, I did. And as a Knicks fan, all I got to say is OKC and 5, baby. All pettiness aside, I got nothing else to add. I want nothing to do with Halley. Just pissing me off. At the top of the sixth, we would see Pete Alonso lead off the inning there with a walk. Then Jeff McNeil gets on with a walk. So 2 on, no way, Senzatella, sayonara, out of here. And then we see here comes Tyrone Taylor, who does in fact get on with a hit by pitch right after Jake Bird comes in, folks. So just like that, the Mets have themselves a bases loaded, no out opportunity. Surely the Mets are going to pounce with a bases loaded, no out opportunity in the 6th inning. Mets with runners in scoring position, they got to step up big time, right? And they do exactly the opposite, everybody. They go down in order from there in what was a monster inning of work, and I have to give credit where credit's due. I was frustrated as all hell as a Mets fan to see this 6th inning transpire, but at the same time, it was also kind of impressive to see Jake Bird casually strike out Brett Beatty. Then he strikes out Alvarez, and he strikes out Mauricio. He strikes out the effing side somehow after having a bases loaded, no out jam to work with to keep it a 1-run lead for Colorado. And that's exactly what happened, everybody. And trust me, I know the umpire was an absolute schmuck as well, but I just still can't get over the fact that he managed to get out of this, even with how much of an ass he was. Because when we take a look at the Beatty strike call, it was a horrendous strike 3. I don't disagree with you guys whatsoever, but unfortunately in today's MLB, even with a pitch down and away, not even nicking the zone, that is a borderline strike in today's game, especially if that's going to potentially be a strike 3 call after already 1 and 2 on the count. Do I agree with it? No. Do I think the ump show is an absolute joke and a disaster in today's game? Yes, and I 100% agree that it needs to change and something needs to happen there. But unfortunately for us Mets fans, it isn't going to be immediate. So just seeing that was the latest example of just how much I can't wait for the automated strike zone system and actually be able to challenge these key calls, which again can naturally dictate ball games. Because Beatty, again, horrendous strike 3 call on him there that we saw in that at bat. And then afterwards, we saw Alvarez strike out swinging and Bronny strike out swinging. So regardless on how good those pitches were, it's up to the Mets bats for stepping up, and they simply didn't there. So after having bases loaded, no outs, the Mets do nothing with it, everybody. That gets us set for the bottom of that same inning. In the bottom of the 6th, we would see Kodai Sanga's final inning of work today get a flyout on Taro Estrada, a big strikeout on Hunter Goodman, a 2-out single to Ryan McMahon, and a fly to Brennan Doyle, everybody. That is then going to do it for Kodai Sanga's final line. Let's break it down together and let's get into these numbers, folks. Kodai Sanga's final line today is as follows: 6 innings, a 5-hit, 1 earned run, 2 walks, 6 strikeout ball. Senga, who entered today's start with right around a 1.06 ERA on the season, concludes today's start with a 1.59 ERA on the season. So the ERA drops ever so slightly. Kodai Sanga, who has been without question the Mets' fortified ace so far this season, steps up yet again with a classic outing, going 6 strong, a quality outing against this Colorado Rockies team today, everybody. And as we break down Kodai Sanga's arsenal, you have the Ghost Fork utilized the most yet again here, especially as that key put out pitch at times. 43% of the arsenal. He threw it 47 times, as a matter of fact, and topped out at 84 miles per hour and sat right around 82. The forcing fastball at 23% of the arsenal, topped out 97 and sat right around 94. The cutter at 17% of the arsenal, topped out 95 and 87 sat right around 90. This slider at 16% in the arsenal, topped at 87, sat right around 84, and the sweeper that he threw just once. And the most hilarious thing is that Kodai Sanga threw his sweeper just once this entire outing, and the one time he threw it, he gave up a home run. It was literally middle, sayonara, it's out of here, and that's the only home run that we saw Kodai give up in the early goings of this matchup, everybody. So Kodai Sanga, more as advertised, more of exactly that you expect Kodai Sanga to be in an outing like this against the Colorado Rockies. This is an absolutely easy 6.5 to 7 grade from your guy Wardy today. You know, it's kind of tough. I know he only won 6 innings today. I really want to give him just a flat 7 out of 10, but I think I'm going to go 6.5 or 6.75, even though I know you guys are probably tired of the decimal points. I'm just not entirely sure as to what my true final grade is going to be for him, but I know it's in the 6.5 to 7 range. He did exactly what he needed to. I would have liked to see Senga go one more inning, but I understand that's easier said than done at times. Senga did in fact throw 109 pitches, so it's not like he really had the opportunity or the rightful opportunity to go for his 7th inning. But like I said, I'm going to go between 6.5 and 7 out of 10 for your guy Wardy there, and evaluate and grading Kodai Sanga's final line. And I would love to hear from you guys in the live chat, in the comments down below. How would you grade Kodai Sanga's final line here as the Mets ultimately win this one by a final score of 4-2 that we saw from tonight's Game 1 victory in Denver against the Colorado Rockies? Let's see, Tyler the mathematician over here said absolutely nobody. Bobby, happy to have you in the chat, my man. Thank you so much for being in here as always. But let's hop back in this one, everybody. Let's continue to break down this Game 1 victory in Denver for the Amazons, folks. As we continue on from here, we would see in the 7th inning, WardyNYM with a ground out. Marte then in the 2-hole with a 1-out single. Then Juan Soto rips himself a single. Soto's second hit of the ball game. You got 2 on, less than 2 out for the Polar Bear and Pete Alonso. What does Pete Alonso do? What does the Polar Bear do? He clutches up yet again with runners in scoring position. Pete Alonso, who's been on an absolute heater as of late, everybody. Alonso already has 4 home runs since the start of the month of June at this point. 12 RBIs in the month of June entering today's game. And what do we see, folks? At least 12 RBIs, because in the past 7 games alone for Alonso, he has those numbers. Tremendous numbers. And today, Alonso rips his 20th double this season, and also huge RBIs as he drives in both Marte and Soto in this one. He's now up to 57 RBIs on the season for the Polar Bear, everybody. Can we tip the cap and shout out which is our leader? If it isn't going to be Francisco Lindor, if it ain't going to be Juan Soto, it's got to be the Polar Bear and Pete Alonso. What a great quality at bat that we had from Alonso there, that we saw pull to the left side this time to give the Mets the late 2-1 lead in this ball game. And mind you, the Mets don't get the 2-1 lead until the 7th inning. So the same Mets team that swung and missed with early opportunities with 2 on, 2 out or less there. Then we see bases loaded and no outs, and they somehow blow it entirely in a very dramatic and very fitting fashion in Colorado. Because I know you guys remember the Mets have had some gauntlets of baseball games in Colorado the past couple years, and one commonality that we've seen from previous games there is that the Mets had bases loaded or close to bases loaded opportunities and didn't pounce nearly enough. But today, even with the Mets not doing enough earlier in the 6th inning, they make up for it in the 7th inning, and they take a 2-1 lead and pretty much never look back from there. After Alonso ripped his 56th and 57th RBI of the year, we would see in the bottom of that same inning, Colorado actually ties it, everybody, because Huascar Brosman comes in, and Brazo, who has been nails for the Mets all season long, that we've seen with the exception there, and I really hope that isn't going to be the case, Rebecca, in regards to what you just said. That is not ideal at all. Huascar Brosman, who gave up that fastball upstairs to Max Muncy, which tied the ball game there in that series against the Dodgers. We see right away he gets a ground out on Ryan Ritter. Then we see Sam Hilliard coming to pinch hit for Keston Hiura. And of course, he somehow, some way rips his first triple of the year. Hilliard, who ripped his first home run this season against the Mets there back at Citi Field less than 2 weeks ago, now rips his first triple of the year. The gaps are just absolutely stupid that we see there, unfortunately, in the Colorado. now. Triples are definitely a possibility, especially when you see how they go in the gap the way that they do right there. And no, it's a prediction. Okay, I hope that prediction doesn't become a reality, Rebecca. We're going to talk more on that player and others in content not only tomorrow, but in the coming days on the platform. We got a lot dropping on that front, so be on the lookout for it, everybody. But after we'd see Sam Hilliard get on with a triple, Mickey Moniak does what he does best, and Mickey, who got the party started with a solo shot, the 6th of the year for him on a sweeper middle, the only sweeper that Senga threw this entire ball game. We would see Mickey Moniak tie the ball game again, this time with 2 outs on an RBI single there to the right side. That makes it 2-2 there, everybody. And then Tyler Freeman would ground out, but not before it's a tie ball game entering the 8th inning. In the 8th inning, we would see Mr. Ronnie Mauricio rip his first hit at the major league level this season, and he goes opposite field with it for a roaring double. Towering double for Ronnie Mauricio, who puts himself in scoring position there with 2 outs after Alvarez struck out and Beatty flew out for Mr. Brandon Nimmo, who would sadly strike out swinging. Setting the stage for the bottom of the 8th, everybody. The Mets are tied 2-2. Here comes Ryan Stanek, and Ryan Stanek, everybody, works out of some Houdini magic yet again in this one. Jordan Beck leads off the inning with a single. Then Taro Strada rips his 3rd double of the year and puts runners in scoring position right away at 2nd and 3rd, no outs. Then you tell me Hunter Goodman gets on with a walk. Bases juice. No outs. What happens, everybody? A massive line out from Ryan McMahon happens. A massive strikeout there from Brennan Doyle would end the inning, everybody, because I apologize. There was at least one out there that we saw there that led to that point. But the point is that we saw Ryan Stanek, who had himself a gauntlet of an issue that he had to deal with, everybody. And just like that, that would find ourselves ending the ballgame unscathed after having bases loaded, no out. Because the key out there that we saw in Ryan McMahon wasn't just any line out. It was a tremendous unassisted double play turn at 3rd base, all by Brett Beatty himself. Brett Beatty saved the Mets' potential runs there from being scored, and then for Ryan Stanek to escape that mess the way they did, getting a massive bulldog FU strikeout on Brennan Doyle. And this one, everybody, that slide piece there that we saw, beautifully placed down below the zone, gets him to bite at roughly 90 miles per hour. Ryan Stanek is feeling it, as he should. Stanek is now down to a 3.22 ERA on the season after having himself a scrolls outing there for the Mets, escaping a bases loaded, no out jam, and that is how the Mets made up for having their own bases loaded, no out jam blunder just a couple innings ago. They made up for it on the pitching end. Now it's up for the bats offensively to break out and be the difference maker in this one, and thankfully, folks, the Mets would be exactly that. We get to the 9th inning, and right away, Charlie Marte strikes out swinging. Juan Soto is the plate setter. He gets the party started with a 1-out single, his 3rd hit of the ball game. This time it's up the middle of Brennan Doyle. Then Pete Alonso, the polar bear, gets on with a walk, setting the stage there, folks, with 2 outs after McNeil flies out for Mr. Francisco Lindor, who gets on for Tyrone Taylor as a pinch hitter. And we would see that even after the challenge, Francisco Lindor rips himself, a broken pinky toe and all, a no doubt 11th double this season that gives the Mets a 4-2 lead. Talk about clutchness, talk about reliability, talk about a man who just wants nothing but to win for this Mets team every single day out there. Talk about the man who's been the most valuable player in all the National League over the past calendar year plus. Talk about the man who's helped lead the New York Mets to the best record in all of Major League Baseball over the past 162 plus games that they have played. I present to you our captain and Francisco Lindor, who is relentless at doing what he feels is best for this Mets team. In the case of today, it's some massive 9-inning huge 2 RBI doubles to give the Mets the 4-2 lead. The Mets would ultimately go on to then win by a final score of 4-2 as Edwin Sugar Diaz comes in the save situation. He gets a huge called strike 3 on Ryan Ritter. He gets a ground on Hilliard and a line on Kyle Farmer, everybody. And Lindor, who bolts out of the Mets dugout there just to play with the Mets infield a bit too. They go on to win this one and celebrate by a final score of 4-2, everybody. And I cannot get over the fact of just how locked in Lindor continues to be, even with all the issues that he currently has right now on the pinky toe front. Juan Soto's tremendous game offensively. He's getting better and better that we're seeing right now, and he's having fun. That's the biggest takeaway from Juan Soto. He's not just bottle flipping the Mets dugout there and dicking around with guys like Luis Angel Acuna, Starling Marte, Luis Torrens, among others. He's genuinely having fun, and he looks more and more like the guy that we saw in spring training, messing around, having fun in the Mets clubhouse, having fun with the Mets relievers there in their bullpen, having fun in the outfield, and of course playing loose, fun, stress-free baseball, getting the best offensive output from a guy like him possibly. Then you added Lindor's selflessness on the leadership aspect from start to finish all season long that we've gotten to this point, everybody. The best start to a season in Lindor's career as a New York Met is what we've gotten so far this season, everybody. And then you add in Pete Alonso. Then you add in the Polar Bear, who has been consistently dominant since taking Devin Williams deep opposite field in the wild card of the last year's playoff round against Milwaukee Brewers. Need I say more, everybody? The New York Mets are 40-24 on the season. If you're not excited, if you're not at least a little bit ecstatic on what has been a tremendous start to the year for them, because you're so get to click and really get in a groove for this New York Metropolitan team. There's a lot more that still needs to be had when we evaluate things on the aspect of not just their depth of their bullpen, their depth of their rotation with guys like Sean Manaea, who we have some key news that we're going to be sharing for you guys tomorrow. Be on the lookout for that. The latest on his front, Frankie Montas, what's going on there, as along with everyone else. 1 through 9 in the lineup. When you look at the pitching staff, this Mets team collectively is as good as any in all of the National League so far this year. And to see what the Mets have been able to do on a pretty consistent basis, no matter who they're playing on the series outcome standpoint, has been impressive to see. The only thing that bothers me so far, everybody, especially with the Mets road trip so far this year, is their inability to close out those 4-game sets. What do we have in common between the Nationals 4-game series in which they split and the 4-game series split in LA? It's the fact that the Mets and both series should have won at least 3 out of 4, and they shot themselves in the foot. And both losses the Mets had in DC, it was a walk-off fashion for the Nationals after the Mets blew it. In LA, the Mets 2 losses that we just saw, one of them was a walk-off, and the other was an absolute brutal blow of a bullpen blow-up in the 8th inning. You guys see the trend? The Mets have had so many games where things have really been in more of their control than anything else. And I know that you guys can agree and attest to this, as people who have watched the Mets daily, live and a replay, following along the platform the way that you guys have here. So thank you kindly for hitting that like and subscribe on your way in and on your way out for our latest New York Metropolitan post-game show. But the point I'm trying to make here, everybody, and I also apologize as I realize that the graphic down below is getting set there for the next games, the next day set of games there. So I apologize for not having the active scores running. You know what? I might as well just fix that now. But moral of the story, the point that I'm trying to make here on the front of what has been so great about the Mets season at this point is the fact that even while they have not played anywhere close to their best baseball, there have been so many things to be happy, to be proud about as a fan, which tells you that that there's going to be a lot more to come out of what we're getting from the Mets right now. Their current on-field product is not going to be the end-all be-all. The same way that we're still waiting to see Francisco Lindor get that C on his chest officially, as the same way that we're really waiting to see the Mets kind of get more on a run than what they've had so far this year, which again is crazy to say, knowing that they're 40-24 on the season. The Mets are just a couple more wins away from getting 20 games above 500 on the year, and they're really not that far away from getting there if they can just continue their winning ways here in Colorado against the lesser Colorado Rockies and then go on from there. It's June, bro. The Mets are fine. Calm down, everyone. The Mets are beyond fine. Lloyd, how are we doing? Great members. Always spam the W's in the chat. Love to see that. Love to have you in here. And as we're getting down to breaking down more on the Mets offensive end, everybody, let's take a look at the following numbers. I want to hear your guys' input on it. All right, guys, as you guys can see, this is how the ball game ended for the New York Metropolitan lineup. And no, I get it, homemade. I realized what you were saying quickly after you said it. Brandon Nimmo, who led off today's ball game, did not get a hit, but has been balling out big time lately. Whether it's been the 2-hole or in leadoff yesterday where he had that solo shot, then going back-to-back with Marte. Nimmo, 227 average and a 706 OPS on the year. Star-studded Starling Marte, 2 for 5 on a run scored, and not 1, not 2, but 3 strikeouts. So Marte didn't get a hit today, but he was striking out out, no in between. That was the result. 248 average, 746 OPS. So he is quickly getting those numbers up there for sure. And then limited sample size. Juan Soto is slowly but surely getting those numbers up as well. Soto, a 3-for-4 game with 2 runs scored, a 238 average and an 811 OPS. The polar bear and Pete Alonso with his big 2 RBI day, thanks to a huge double there. 298 average, 977 on OPS there for the polar bear and Pete Alonso. Jeff McNeil, who started the game at second base and finished there in center field for defensive reasons. McNeil went 1 for 4 with a walk, 237 average and a 778 OPS. We saw Tyrone Taylor in center field to begin this ball game, 0 for 3 with a 234 average, 626 OPS. Lindor came in a pinch hit for him. Lindor's 2 RBIs now at a 282 average, 852 OPS. Luis Angel Acuna, who then pinch ran there after the fact, or came in as a defensive replacement, 244 average, 584 OPS. Brett Beatty went 0 for in this one. He's down to a 230 average and 698 OPS. Francisco Alvarez 1 for 4, including his opposite field base knock, 237 average and 620 OPS. And Ronnie Mauricio with his first hit at the major league level this year. Ronnie with an opposite field double, a .083 average and a 250 OPS. And that does it for the New York Metropolitan lineup 1 through 9. And this one, everybody, I want to hear all your thoughts in the live chat, and to all of our replay viewers, all you need to know on the front of Ronnie Mauricio and this entire New York Metropolitan lineup. Because, folks, this is now going to cut things off for all of my replay viewers, but everyone that's watching the live show live, don't worry, we're not going anywhere. We're still going to be live another 10 plus minutes or so, because I would love to answer whatever comments, questions, or concerns you have for your guy Wardy after the Mets take game 1 of a multi-game set today in Colorado. This time by a final score of 4-2. So to all my replay viewers, the call to action is as follows to you guys. Please let us know all your key takeaways in the comments down below to this game 1 victory in Denver, what you liked about it, what you didn't like about it. How do you feel about the New York Mets, who did in fact go 2 for effing 15 with runners in scoring position and left 12 on base? This comes a day after the Mets, I believe, were 12 for 13, or 2 for 12, I should say, with runners in scoring position with 13 left on base. The Mets' runner in scoring position woes continue. It'll continue to rear its head until they get something consistently going. And I understand on one side, you say to yourself, it's a great thing. The Mets are constantly putting guys on base, so naturally that number is going to be a little bit inflated. While that is true, the same thing can be said that the Mets' continued demise, their biggest Achilles heel from start to finish this year, has without question been the continued woes of runners in scoring position, and yet again today it gets exposed in Colorado against these Rockies. So let that marinate in your head as to how you feel about that as a Mets fan. I also want to know how you feel about Ronnie Mauricio getting the start today at shortstop and not being much of a liability there. Always appreciate that when we don't have ourselves these defensive blunders on the errors end. So let me know all your thoughts in the comments down below. To all of our live viewers, we're going to continue on the live show, but everyone on replay, this is where we will cut things off. Let's go Mets, baby. Peace out, folks.